You've been walking through a dream, and no one told you. The streets feel solid. The opinions, the judgments, the emotions, they all carry weight. Arguments feel personal. Deadlines feel urgent. Your past feels unchangeable. And the future? That feels like a looming shadow waiting to decide your worth. But have you ever paused, just for a second, and looked at it all from outside? Not from a place of logic, not from overthinking, but from stillness, silence. That moment when everything fades for a breath, and you notice how strange this all feels, how temporary, how fluid, how unreal. You start to see that the story you've been reacting to isn't the full story. It's a version of reality built from habits, from mental reflexes, from fears and hopes and echoes of things long gone. And suddenly, that pressure you've been carrying, it softens. Because what felt so real was only ever assumed to be real. People's opinions? They shift like weather. That embarrassing moment you keep replaying, forgotten by everyone but you. That thing you were chasing that made you feel not enough. It was never the point. This is where the unraveling begins. Not in doing more, not in fixing things, but in questioning what you've blindly accepted as real for so long. You realize most of your suffering came from mistaking temporary experiences for absolute truths. The moment you look closer, you see the cracks. And the cracks aren't the problem, they're the opening. Because through those cracks, a clearer perception begins to rise. One that isn't swayed by noise or stuck in old loops. One that sees life as a mirror, not a trap. You see, it's not just the outside world that tricks you. It's how your own mind responds to that world, without your permission. Ever notice how a single look from someone can make you question yourself? How one unfinished message can throw your mood off for an entire day? That's not life doing that to you. That's a program you didn't realize you downloaded. You grew up downloading thousands of unconscious agreements. That your worth is based on what you accomplish. That love is something you earn by pleasing others. That staying realistic means never trusting your own expansion. That emotions must mean truth, even if they come from a wound. And every day, without realizing it, you've been acting in alignment with those agreements. Not because they're right, but because they feel familiar. But what if you questioned those reflexes? What if every time your body tensed up in fear, you didn't follow it, but watched it? What if every emotional spiral wasn't an invitation to panic, but a chance to observe the actor in your mind playing a part you never auditioned for? This isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming awake. There's a version of you that doesn't get pulled into every emotional reaction. Not because you're above it all, but because you're finally starting to see. This isn't who you are. You're not the one reacting. You're the one witnessing the reaction. The one who can see the fear and not become it. The one who can feel shame arise and still choose presence. The one who hears the old voice whisper, "You're not enough," and simply says, "That's not mine anymore." You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not the broken narratives passed down through generations. You are what's underneath, the quiet stillness watching it all come and go. And the more you rest there, in that witnessing space, the more you stop taking life so personally. The more you see that every reality was just a role you agreed to play. Until now. There's another layer to this whole illusion, one that's even harder to spot because it doesn't come from the world. It comes from within you. We think reality tricks us from the outside. The media, society, expectations. But what if the biggest illusion is actually self-generated, built by your own nervous system, your own traumas, and your own emotional memory? Imagine this. You walk into a room and instantly feel that something is off. No one said anything, no bad vibes in the air. But something inside you tightens, like a warning. You leave. You don't question it. You just say, "I knew something was wrong." But what if there was nothing wrong, except the lens you were seeing through? Because here's the hard truth most people miss. You're not seeing the world as it is. You're seeing it as your nervous system remembers it. Every time you were judged, every time you were rejected, every time someone let you down, your body registered that. And now, without even knowing it, your system starts expecting the same outcome again. It starts reacting before anything even happens. You call it intuition, but often it's just unprocessed fear pretending to protect you. That's why someone can say something completely neutral, and it still hurts. That's why a good moment still feels unsafe. That's why happiness doesn't feel like it lasts. Because your inner system is still trying to survive a moment that already ended. So no matter what reality is doing on the outside, you're still filtering it through pain, through protection. This isn't to blame you. This isn't to say your feelings aren't valid. It's just to shine a light on the fact that you might be projecting past danger onto a present moment that's actually safe. And once you see that, really see it, you don't just question the outside world. You question your own reactions. You question the tension. You question why your heart races before anything even goes wrong. And that's when something massive starts to shift. Because now, you're not just waking up to the illusion around you. You're waking up to the illusion within you, the inner narrative that keeps dragging the past into the present and calling it truth. That kind of awakening doesn't make life easier at first. It makes things louder. You start seeing how often you pull away, shut down, overthink, assume the worst. You realize how long you've been fighting ghosts, battles that are already over, enemies that were never real. But here's the gift. Once you stop believing every thought, every reaction, every tension as truth, you start becoming free. You're no longer hypnotized by the echoes of what hurt you. You start building a new reality, not by force but by presence, by showing up without your armor on, by letting moments be new again. You realize maybe the world wasn't against you. Maybe your body was just bracing for a hit that never came. And maybe, just maybe, peace was never something to find. It was something you stopped distrusting. And now we reach the question you can't escape forever. If it's all an illusion, what's real enough to trust? You've questioned the world. You've questioned your thoughts. You've even started questioning your own emotional responses and default reactions. But what remains when all of that gets stripped away? What if the most real part of you isn't your thoughts, emotions, fears, past, or even your personality, but something far more quiet? Not a voice, not a belief, but a witness. A kind of alert stillness behind everything. That's where this whole journey points. Not to more control, but to clarity. Not to fixing the illusion, but to seeing through it so clearly that it no longer tricks you. Because when you look close enough, you notice something powerful. Everything your mind is afraid of is happening in its own imagination. The argument that hasn't happened yet. The failure you think will define you. The rejection that's just a maybe. All of it feels real. Until you look closer. Until you pause, not to fix the thought, but to question it. Until you breathe, not to escape discomfort, but to watch it without running. And what you'll notice is this. Every illusion needs your full belief to survive. Once you stop feeding it, it falls apart. The fear, it fades. The self-doubt, it quiets. The tension, it softens. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped getting pulled into the movie. And once you do that, even just for a moment, the illusion can't fully hook you anymore. You still live life. You still feel things. But you move through it all with a kind of grounded softness. Like someone who sees the trick but chooses to play along without forgetting it's a trick. You realize you don't need to escape the illusion. You just need to stop mistaking it for your identity. You don't need to control everything outside of you. You just need to stop collapsing into everything inside of you. That's where real power lives. Not in pretending nothing bothers you, but in finally understanding why it does, and letting it pass through you, not become you. So here's your challenge. It's a little different this time. For the next 24 hours, live as if you already know the difference between the illusion and what's real. When a reaction pulls you in, pause. Ask yourself, is this the moment? Or is this my memory of a similar one? Live your day like someone who sees the curtain pulled back, someone who still plays the game, but isn't hypnotized by the pieces anymore. And if you're ready to take on that challenge, drop the word clear in the comments. Just that word. So I know who's no longer just waking up, but choosing to stay awake.